and welcome to WRPB and WRPB Studios. So, today is a special day, as you know. It's September 11th, and it's a date that changed the world and surely changed this country. And I remember hearing what was going on back in that day. I had just gotten to work, and I was so touched and so hurt, and I didn't know how to express myself. But through the years since, I've seen things happen that was really disappointing. And I think our first responders, in everything, whether it be back September 11th or whether it be today, they get the rare end of the deal. Defund the police until you need them, of course. What all the first responders do, and I've had heart attacks and strokes and ambulances, and I probably would not be here if it wasn't for a bunch of first responders. With me is Milton Rosario with the St. Lucie Sheriff's Department?
St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, yes.
Okay, I didn't put county. Yes. Okay, so you have seen it all because you were around September 11th.
Yes.
Where were you?
I was, at the time, I was an NYPD detective. When it happened, the morning of, I was at home. I had done a night shift the night before. I was assigned to the Organized Crime Control Bureau, and I had worked a night shift the night before.
So, I guess you get up in the morning and find out what happened.
Yes.
And how devastated were you?
Well, I was, when it happened, I was asleep. I get a phone call, and a friend of mine woke me up and says, turn the TV on. So I turn the TV on, and I see what's going on, and my immediate thought was, I got to get out of here. That's where I need to be. There are different levels of mobilizations, which are instances where you get activated, whether you're off duty, on vacation, whatever,
Right.
on leave, and you get activated. Nobody had to issue an order. Most first responders who were off at home, not working at the time, just took off from wherever they were. And so that was the case with me. I got in my car and I just drove down to Manhattan, to Lower Manhattan.
Were you in disbelief?
I was in incredible disbelief that it had happened again, because I was a police officer during the first attack in '93. And
That was the basement one?
yes.
Okay, see, I remember
Correct,
that.
yes.
That's because I'm older than dirt. So, I mean, like, for me, it was like, I can't believe that this could happen.
Mhm.
So, you went down there. You were at ground zero at any point in time?
I was at ground zero when the last of the building. I was a block away when the last of the buildings actually came down. But even heading there, I remember being an entire county away. I was still in Brooklyn. At the time, I lived in Staten Island, so I jumped on the Verrazano Bridge, got into Brooklyn, took the Gowanus Expressway, which leads one to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. So as I drove on the Gowanus Expressway, an entire county away, I start seeing paper falling down, and I'm saying to myself, it's November, it can't be snowing, there's not snow. And it actually turned out to be paper. So the first of the buildings had already come down, and there was paper coming down all the way out to Brooklyn.
Wow. So, you get there, and it's interesting because people don't understand what goes through the mind of a sheriff, a deputy, a police officer. And don't take this wrong. Nothing goes through your mind but getting there and helping. And I don't think people understand when we're just talking about, defund the police. but it's no big deal until you need the police, okay? And in every industry, in every business, there's the good and the bad, and that's going to be everywhere. The thing is, you only hear the negative, and you don't hear how many times you guys have helped people that needed help. Me being one, um, dealing with first responders during health issues and stuff. Of course, we all get scared when there's a police officer behind us, but that's just natural. All right, so you get through that. I guess you end up moving to Florida,
Yes.
and now you listen to what goes on with, hey, let's defund the police, and that's got to hurt you because your heart is in what you do. And when you go, and this is, I guess, a cliche, but when you leave your house, there's no guarantee that you're coming home. And that's a terrible feeling. Your spouse, is it tough on your spouse?
Absolutely.
You have kids?
Yes. I have
Tough on them?
Absolutely. It's definitely tough on them. And people don't realize, yes, they hear and see sometimes what you do, but it's not just you, it's your spouse. So during hurricanes, everybody is getting their stuff together, they're preparing their homes, and they hunker down in their homes. And it's different for us.
You can't do that.
I leave my home and I leave my wife, and so
That's gonna be hard.
It's very hard. It's not only hard on us, very difficult on them. So we try to prepare, and I try to prepare her for situations like that. And we talk about, hey, if this were to happen, you do this and you do this, but it's not, we get a lot of really awesome people saying, hey, thank you for your service, and thank you for what you do, and we absolutely appreciate that.
And it takes
Like
nothing to someone to say thank you for your service.
Yeah.
All right, what does it take?
Yeah, but the spouses and the family also bear a lot of the burden.
How old are your kids?
28
Oh,
is
wow.
my daughter, and my son is 15.
So they are well aware of what dad does
Mhm.
and how dangerous it is. And though I don't have that in my world, I don't have first responders in my family, it eats at me to know how people look at you sometimes and how unfair it is because they don't walk an inch in your shoes and know that you have to always be on guard. And when you're just protecting the people and following guidelines that you have. You're doing a job, okay? You're not the one to say they're guilty or not guilty,
Right.
okay? And people don't understand that because you're the bad guy, okay? One way or the other, you're the bad guy. And I think first responders get the raw end of the deal. But you need to know that there are people out there that really care and really know that you're doing a job and you got to do this job, and that job allows us to not have to look over our shoulder all the time, okay, and to protect us. And for me, I will always be a wreck when I see a cop behind me, and I think most people are like that.
I am as well. Believe it or not, I've been doing this for 30 somewhat years, and if there's a police officer behind me in a patrol car, I'm like, holy cow,
What'd
I
I
better,
do?
make sure that I'm, in line. And so I think it's a natural thing for most or many people. But yeah, if you're doing the right thing, you have nothing to worry about.
That's true. My wife always said, if you do it right, don't have to look over your shoulder.
Yeah.
So, being September 11th, does this day hold a lot of emotion for you?
Yes. So for a long time, I didn't want to talk about it because of the things that I saw, that I went through, that I experienced. I avoided the subject at all cost. And then, believe it or not, a veteran came up to me and said, "Hey, what do you know about Pearl Harbor?" And I said, "Well, I know A, B, C, D." And he said, "You know, you only know that because somebody that was there thought it important enough to talk about it." And click, it made sense. And from that moment on, you couldn't shut me up.
And I get
wanted
it.
to, yeah.
You know, being Jewish, we talk about the Holocaust.
Hmm.
If you don't talk about it, it goes away.
Hmm.
Um, it's people think I'm crazy because I talk about being molested as a kid,
Okay.
and they say they're sorry, and then I say no, I'm blessed, and they don't understand it, and I said because you're not going to stop it ever. It's going to happen, and I'm one of the few guys that will talk about it, so I can help others. And you have to look at your blessings in life and what God gives you, and you have to be a good steward of not only your money but of your services.
Hmm.
And it goes back to what does it take when you see a veteran or a first responder to say thank you?
Hmm.
What does it take? Okay, it's nothing. It doesn't take anything. Costs you nothing, and yet there's a feeling in there that you, as a first responder receiving someone's thanks, it makes you appreciate what you do and know that other people appreciate what you do. So this is a day many years ago that we struggled through, and we struggled through getting past it. But you're right. You're never going to get past it, and you should never forget it.
And um, I now speak at different places. Well, Port St. Lucie High School. I was the SRO at Port St. Lucie High School for about 8 years, and this gentleman there, Ron Frazier, who I believe he still heads. He was the head of the history department, and we did a presentation there, a 90-minute video presentation on September 11th, the World Trade Center, and it's both video, audio, and my personal experience. And so, as long as I have breath in my lungs, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to do presentations, and I'm going to try to keep it at the forefront because I think it is incredibly important
I am really
to
glad
talk
that you
about
came
that.
out. Everybody, don't ever forget, okay? Write it, read about it, talk about it. It's something that should stay in your minds, and we should pass it on to the next generation so they know what can happen and what has happened. Deputy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody will be right back.